Hello bookworms, I'm Becca, and today I'm going to be talking about Radio Silence by Alice Oseman. Oh my gosh, you guys. Alright, we're gonna go on a journey. Also, this video is gonna have spoilers, and I don't even care. I don't even care at this point. This book came out, and everyone was super excited about it. Like, I saw everybody talking about it. Like, I wasn't really into it because I don't know, I didn't think that I would like it. And then I just kept hearing like more and more people get into this book, and after reading Eliza and Her Monsters, I heard about Radio Silence again, and I thought, okay, I really want to read this book. It has to do with the podcast. I need to get my hands on it, and I couldn't find it anywhere because apparently this is everyone's favorite book. Well, newsflash, I don't like it. But it took me so long to find it. I couldn't find it at the library. I couldn't find it at Barnes & Noble. I could not find it at my indie bookstore. I couldn't find it on online thrift bookstores. I had to get it from freaking Amazon, and that's annoying because Amazon is trash. So I get this book and I am really excited to read it. I'm, just getting off Eliza and Her Monsters. I read this one in 2 sittings. And so I enjoyed it while I was reading it. And then I started to recount the story to my husband and realized this book is trash. Sorry, this book it's not good, y'all. It is just not good, okay? So, here's the thing. While I was reading it, I really liked it. It started off with this like weird scene though where their school was on fire, and Frances, the main character, is talking about like how her best friend went missing right after the school burned down or something, and her best friend's like also a lesbian. So I'm like, oh my gosh, this is gonna be like super deep, like something happened to her friend, and then it's like literally never talked about again, but that's whatever. So the story starts going on, and I was into it. Like, I was really into it. Frances is really into this online podcast called Universe City, and it's run by an anonymous user called Radio Silence, and she's like super obsessed with this podcast. Like, she makes fan art for it, for her Tumblr and everything, which was cool. And then Radio Silence like reaches out to her, like DMs her, and asks if she would be willing to do channel art for some of the podcasts. And I was like, oh my gosh, this is gonna be so cool. I was really excited for it. I was living. It was great, especially because Frances as a character was really bland. Like, she goes to school, she is like top of her class, and that's it. Like, there's nothing really spectacular about her life. She doesn't like going out. She's got friends, but she doesn't really hang out with them outside of school because she feels like they don't understand her. And the first thing that she does when she gets home is take off her bland school clothes and put on like quirky jumpers, which is, I mean, it is what it is. She's not like any other girl. We'll just say that, I guess. So it's going along and the story's fine. And then, like, I knew the creator of Universe City was because it says it right on the flap of the book. I was okay with like knowing that they would end up working together and everything because that is what happened in Eliza and Her Monsters, kind of. But it happened so fast. Like, it literally happened within the first like maybe 100 pages. There was a point where I was reading and I was just like, oh, this is happening now? Like, it happened so fast, and I thought, where could this story possibly go from here? Are they just going to like work together? Because I know that his identity gets leaked, and I knew that all of this was going to happen. So I guess I shouldn't be that surprised that the story literally goes nowhere. Like, it goes nowhere. And I should have known. That is like the biggest takeaway from this whole video, is like, I should have known. And I chose to keep reading. So I guess that I did this to myself. But honestly, whatever. So they start working together. That was my favorite part of the entire book. We get this amazing scene where Francis is watching Aled, I believe his name is, Aled, record an episode of Universe City. And that scene is like my whole aesthetic, my whole mood, every vibe I ever want to put out. It's amazing. There's twinkle lights. He like dims the lights and puts on twinkle lights, and she's cozied up on a beanbag chair, and it's just so like wonderful and cozy, and I can picture it so crisp and clear in my mind. And I wish that the whole book was just like that. Like, I get it. Aled wanted his identity to be anonymous because his mom is like crazy and abusive. Like, I get it. The scenes that we see her in, she's like super abusive. The mom didn't feel real. She felt like a caricature of what an abusive parent would be. And I was trying to think of a good way to describe the mom. The only example that came to my mind was the other mother. Like from Coraline. Like, she reminded me of the other mother because she's just like this caricature of what a not good mom would be. And that's it. Like, she didn't feel real. I wasn't invested in their relationship. I just like was not invested because I feel like what happened was Alice Oseman had a great baseline for a story, but she never took it anywhere. Like, if you're going to have a plot that deals with mental illness and abusive families and all of that, like, take it somewhere. Push it hard. Push it as far as it's going to go. Push it to the point where like people are uncomfortable. But instead I feel like she started to explore those points and then stopped because she didn't want to go too far. And then it just felt fake. Like, it didn't feel real. It felt like wax fruit. Like, that is what the mom is. She's just a wax fruit apple sitting in a bowl on the counter. Like, it looked pretty and was a good idea, but it was not. It went nowhere, and it was bland. It went nowhere. There's no point. Like, there was no point to her. There's no point to any of the other characters. There's no growth in any of the characters. I am so salty, and I don't know what the frick this book even was. Like, what was the point? And I should have known. I should have known. I could have stopped reading at any time, but I didn't. And that is about the point in the book where the plot, as if it was already like not going anywhere, it just like went so far off the cliff into another dimension that when it hit the bottom of the ravine that it was rolling into, it shattered into 3 different plots, and none of them went anywhere. Like, nothing went anywhere in this book. And that is the most annoying thing to me. That's the most annoying thing, is when you're reading something and you're waiting for like this big thing. Like, there's a big build-up. The school is on fire. It starts out with their elementary school burning down. And they never mention it again. Like, they don't talk about who caused it. They don't talk about anything. Like, it's not brought up ever again, except for them mentioning like, oh, you used to go to this school, but now you go to this one because your old school burned down. Like, that's it. It has nothing to do with the sister, who, by the way, like, disappeared the day after the school burned down, and they haven't seen her since. And in my mind, I'm like, the mom did something. Like, the mom found out that her daughter was a lesbian and did something that has to be what happened, but no, that's not even what happened. That's not even what happened. It would have been cool. It would have been cool if that's what happened, but it's not. And I will get to that. So Aled is so worried about his identity being exposed, and I get it, because it's like, that's what we see in Simon, that's what we see in Eliza. Like, we see that same trope, but this was like the weakest because he was so worried about it being exposed because he didn't want his mom to find out, which I get. Like, his mom was crazy, so he didn't want her to know that he was recording this podcast. One, he's recording the podcast in his own home, so like, how does she not know he's recording it? Like, she can hear him. Sure, he's like whispering or whatever, but she can hear him. And two, who is going to tell his mom? In Eliza and Her Monsters, it made sense because her webcomic was like the most famous webcomic ever. Like, everyone was waiting for the next issue. Everyone talked about this webcomic. Like, her identity got exposed and fans came out of the woodwork like freaking ants out of an anthill. But nobody knew about this podcast. Like, Frances even says that it had a very like small and loyal following on Tumblr, and that's it. Like, it's not this huge big thing. So why is it such a big deal if his identity gets exposed? He says it's because he didn't want his mom to find out, but like, what would she have done, honestly? Like, what would she have done? Because how would she even have found out? Who would tell his mom? Like, who knows? He only has one friend in his life who knew that he was doing this, and he's not going to tell his mom. If he hadn't already, he's not going to now. But his identity does get leaked or whatever, and he freaks out and cuts Frances out of the podcast, which is like, whatever, I guess. And then he goes to university. Like, he leaves, nothing happens. Like, the rest of the book is literally about Frances preparing for her university exams and like entrance interviews. That's it. That's all it is. And that is not the story that I signed up for. I signed up for two people running a podcast and like towards the end, the identity getting exposed, because that's the formula for books like this. Let's be real. That is the formula for books like this. You go along, one character doesn't know, and then they find out, and then they work together, and then the identity is leaked, and then it's all okay in the end. Like, that's how it goes. But nope, all of this happened in the first half of the book, which leaves a whole other half where nothing freaking happened. Like, in retrospect, nothing happens in this book. He goes to university, blocks everyone from his life, but still keeps doing the podcast. So obviously it does not make that big of a deal if his mom knew or not, because he kept doing it even when he was in university. But his podcasts like start getting more and more erratic. So of course, like, a normal character development would be, let's go on a road trip to where he is and make sure he's okay. Instead, Frances said, I know who can help this situation. His sister, who's been lost for 3 years. So what does she do? She becomes a freaking private investigator now to go and track down his sister, but not before doing her entrance interviews for a university and finding out she didn't get in. She didn't even get in, so all of that was for nothing. So now we have doing this podcast where the urgency was for nothing, because even though his identity was leaked, he continues doing it. He just blocks everyone out of his life. And then we have the second plot point where she's going to do her entrance interviews that she's been working so hard for all of her school career. This is what she's been working for. She is the top student of her class. She doesn't go out with her friends. She's bland as bland can be, and all she is doing is working for these entrance interviews, and she goes and doesn't even get in. So like, what was the point of that? What was the point? There was no point in having all of that. And that was her whole character, you guys. That is literally her whole character. It's preparing for these interviews, preparing for college. And she doesn't even get in. So after she doesn't get in, and Aled's podcast is getting super erratic and she's really worried about him, she decides she's going to track down his lost sister that was her best friend, and she hasn't tried finding in the years that she's been gone, but she can find her now. And she decides that I am going to look and their mother's Rolodex that she carries with her everywhere. Do you guys know what a Rolodex is? It's like on the wheel, and it's got the cards, and it goes and spins, and like every card has someone's contact on it from like the freaking 80s. And their mom apparently carries it around with them everywhere, and she finds the sister's address in the Rolodex. Like, they could have tracked her down at any time. Aled even knew that she was alive and well, and didn't try to track her down. Did not even try to track her down. So, like, what is the point of that? She's alive and well in another city, like, close to them. So, Frances goes with this random freaking girl, hitches a ride, and goes and tracks down her used to be best friend that she hasn't even bothered trying to find in years, and finds her working at a theater, being perfectly freaking normal. She's still like the same age as her, so she didn't go back to school. She like dropped out of school, is working at a box office or marketing or whatever in a freaking theater. She's like living her best life apparently. And when Frances is telling her all about Aled and how she's worried about him, what does his sister say? I'm sorry, my family's in the past. Why? Why? Oh my gosh. Another plot point that goes nowhere. They spent all the time trying to track down the sister to go and help this boy, and she doesn't even want to go with them. Like, she does not care because her family's in the past. No, you left your younger brother with your abusive freaking mom, and you took off and you're living your best life, and now you don't want to check on your brother that you were like really freaking close with. You don't care? That doesn't make any sense. It does not make any sense. The second half of this book makes no sense, and it doesn't make any sense. No sense at all. But apparently Frances convinces her to go with them, and they do a wellness check on Aled, who's like not doing well, but he's not dead. Like, I thought that they were gonna show up at his dorm and he was going to like be dead. Like, he would have committed suicide or something. But no, he was out like at a shop getting toothpaste. You guys, makes no sense. Like, the more that I talk about it, the more I'm like, this is so freaking random. Like, none of these points make any sense with each other at all. And how is this a story about doing a podcast? Oh my god. Oh my god. And then as they're doing this wellness check, the mom, I can't even say this. Oh my gosh. Okay. So the mom busts into the dorm and is like, what are you guys doing here? Frances turns to Cassie. That's the sister, by the way. Cassie is her name. Not that it matters, because nothing freaking matters apparently. She turns to Cassie, and Cassie's like, oh yeah, she followed us here because like we were at your house and we live across the street, and I saw my mom watching us from the window, so I knew she was gonna follow us. Why didn't you say anything? Like, this is real. Like, this is a real book that people are like sobbing over, and I can't relate, y'all. I cannot relate. People are sobbing over this book and saying like it's the best book of the year and the best book that they've read in like forever, and I cannot relate because it doesn't make any sense. There's nothing for me to relate to. Nothing makes any sense. The characters are bland as frick. The author did not like push things as far as they could, and when she did push them, it makes no logical sense at all. Nothing makes sense. Guys, I literally just filled up my whole memory card and had to hunt down another one, and I'm not even done yet. I'm not even sorry. What was I saying? Oh yeah, so the mom busts in the dorm room when they're doing the wellness check, and Frances is like, how the frick did you even get here? And Cassie, the sister, goes, well, she followed us. What? If you knew that she was following you, why didn't you say something? Like, you know that your mom is freaking crazy and your brother is, who even knows how he's doing, and you just let your mom follow you all the way to his university? But even that goes nowhere. Like, the mom tries to take him home and then they're like, no, he's not going with you. And she's like, all right. Why? Like, why would you even include it? But the best part is that Cassie becomes like the voice of reason to everyone and is working in a theater, living her best life, as I said, and starts telling them, like, you don't have to go to university. Like, you could do whatever you want and still be happy. And thus lies the real point of the whole book. Societal expectations and doing what you want regardless of societal expectations and family pressure. Because Frances really wants to go to school for art but doesn't think that she can do that. Like, you can do whatever the frick you want, girl. And then Alette is basically like, I don't think university is for me. And then they're just like, fine. Like, and then the book ends. Like, you guys, like, I get it. I get how some little 17-year-old out there is reading this and going, oh my god, you're right, I don't have to do what my parents want me to do. Like, I can do whatever I want that makes me happy. I can do that. Like, it's okay. I can do that. And this book helped me realize it. Like, I get it, but I'm not 17. So maybe I'm just like not the target audience for this book. Who knows? A little bit about me. I went to college for 6 years. I am now a preschool teacher. That's not exactly what I want to do with my life, but like, I'm fine with it because that's just life, okay? Like, sometimes you can do what you really want and sometimes you can't. And in an ideal world, you can run away from home at who the frick even knows what age, go work as a marketing person in a frickin' theater and like be fine. And that's just like what you can do with your life and live your best life. But newsflash, you have to have a degree to like do marketing. Even, you know, I will tell you something. She's living her best life working in a theater. You know who I was friends with that went to school for sometimes more than 6 years? People who were going for theater and honing their freaking craft for years and years. And those were not even always the actors. Like, my tech friends are in college honing their craft because that is what you do. If you really care about what you're doing, you want to hone it. Trust. And sure, it's like, yeah, societal expectations. They just want you to go to college because that's the conspiracy and the government wants you to be in debt, whatever. That's also how I thought when I was 17. And you know what happened? I grew up. And I became an adult. And I realized that is just like not always feasible. Like, if that happens for some people, that's awesome. Like, that's really awesome. And I'm glad that this book can impact people and make them see, like, oh, I don't have to do what my family wants me to do. Like, I can do what I want to do. Like, that's great. My biggest thing with this book is that the characters are bland as frick. Like 50 Shades of Beige. Like, all of the characters are bland. There's no freaking character arc or growth with any of the characters. The whole plot in the second half of the book is freaking pointless. Ugh! And it's just so frustrating to me because I see so many people like crying over this book and living for this book. And I'm like, there has got to be something out there with a similar story that does it better. Like 100%. There has to be something. Like everything is in this book is so freaking pointless. And I wish that people would just wake up and see that. And I was fine. Like after I read it, I was fine. I read this book in the beginning of November and I read it in 2 days. And I just let it sit with me. And I was going to make a video right away and I didn't. And then I waited and waited and waited. And my feelings, like, I started to cool off a little bit, and I thought, I'm not gonna make this video. Like, I don't need to make this video. I really don't. I don't want to bring the tea. I'm not this person. And I didn't want to bring the tea until 2 days ago when I picked up Radio Silence again to refresh my memory of the inside cover. And also, I never read the author blurb. You guys, I'm just gonna read it because I can't make this up. I cannot make this up. Where the frick is the book even? Oh, right behind me. That's where I put it. Okay. First of all, look at that angsty picture. Whatever. No tea, no shade, but whatever. Alice Oseman is the author of Solitaire. She studied English at Durham University. Probably due to the expectation of society. That's in her blurb. That is in her blurb. That is so pretentious. Like, I'm sorry. Say whatever you want, but that is so freaking pretentious. And that is like one of my biggest pet peeves is when people like blame things on society expectation. I went to high school with a lot of people like this who are like, well, I'm just going to college because that's what society expects us to do. Then don't go. Like, if that's how you really feel, then don't frickin' go. And it ends with, hopefully she'll avoid having to get a real job for the rest of her life. I'm sorry, isn't writing a real job? Like, if I was a writer, my god, she's just trying so hard to be like quirky and relevant and sarcastic and like real, but she's not. Like, she's not. Her characters are bland as frick. I don't want to drag her because who knows, she could be a very nice person. I don't know her. I do not know her, but I know that if I would have read that before I read this book, I wouldn't have read this book. I'm just gonna be real. If I had read that description about the author before reading this book, I would not have even picked up this book. So that just goes back to the whole point of this video is I should have known. I should have known. I should have known. I should have known. But I didn't. I didn't. And I went into this book thinking that it was going to be something about podcasts and really cool and like fan culture, but it wasn't. Instead, it was just nothing. It was a big, how long is this book even? Over 450 pages of nothing. I feel like things start going downhill in this book in part 2. That is 185 pages in to an over 450 page book. That's a lot of nothingness in one book. That is a lot. That's a lot. And it could have ended, like it could have wrapped up in so many freaking ways and it didn't. And it just turned into a big freaking mess and she's not even a debut author. Like, I feel like a lot can be explained if they're a debut author and she's just not. And now I'm just being like mean and I don't want to be mean, but it's not good. Like, there's so many other good books and I don't understand how people are like crying and sobbing over this book. Okay, scratch that. I understand. I get it. But this was not for me. This was not for me. Because not only did I like go to college for 6 years and hone my craft and what I wanted to do and work hard regardless of the societal expectations of me, but I was not a straight A student in school. So all of this like pressure to be top of my class, I can't relate. Like, maybe that is where it went wrong, is I just can't relate to anything in this book. I can't relate to the characters. I can't relate to the problems. I just can't relate. The only thing that I liked about this book was when he was recording the podcast. And that's not even what it ended up being about. I'm annoyed. I'm just annoyed. I'm just annoyed. And I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I'm really sorry. I'm sorry that I didn't like this book. I'm sorry that I'm being mean or rude or whatever you're going to freaking drag me and say. But most of all, I am sorry for whatever happened halfway through writing this book in Alice Oseman's life that made her go off the freaking deep end and decide that societal expectations were too real. They were like too real, and she needed to freaking 180 her book around to delve into societal expectations. I'm so sorry for whatever happened in her life. I'm sorry. I'm sorry that happened to you, girl. I don't know what it was, but something must have happened. That's it. That's it. That's all I have to say. An hour-long video screaming about frickin' Radio Silence by Alice Oseman. If you're 17 years old and you are working super hard in school and you feel the pressures from your family and like society, I guess, then maybe this will be the book for you. If you're 26 years old and you were like mediocre at best and you had really supportive friends and you like your life a little bit, this might not be the book for you. Sorry. Just sorry. That's all I got to say. Thank you guys so much for watching. Drag me if you want. Go ahead, drag me. I do not care. My opinion will not change. It will not change. Let me know how you felt about this book down below in the comments. I'm sure that you liked it more than I did. Everybody liked this book more than I did, apparently, and that's the reality of this whole video, but I can't wait. So that's all I got. Thanks for watching. Bye.